Hello again, everybody, and welcome to You Bet CaneSport with Lee Sterling, our weekly look at the Miami Hurricanes game from a bettor's perspective. I'm Gary Furman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again by Lee Sterling himself. And Lee, you're riding high this week, man. You told everybody take the Canes and the points last week as Miami went to Pittsburgh and obviously won that one going away. This week, I think you got a little bit of a bigger challenge personally. We're going to talk about it here in a second, and that's Miami, which I guess we said is a 10-point favorite over Georgia Tech this weekend at Hard Rock Stadium. And Lee, I've been watching these ACC games for too many years. Giving somebody 10 points in these Coastal Division games to me seems like a lot, but I'm not the expert. You are. So let's start right there and tell us, how do you break down this Miami-Georgia Tech game and which side of that line are you landing on this week?
Well, it just moved up to 10.5 as we speak. It's gone from 9.5 to 10.5 today. And I guess I got to buy
the Hard Rock line. I mean, I've been noticing those
Hard
Rock lines.
No. I'm looking on my screen. I got a screen with about 30 different places offshore and in Vegas. It just started moving up. So, obviously, because I won, Greg is going to allow me to come back, right? Greg's the critic. So it was, and we make light of it. But let's be honest. The last 15 years, if you were betting Miami, you're probably living under a bridge right now. So, I mean, one of the worst covering teams against the spread. I mean, look at Clemson. Until they covered against Florida State, they had not covered a game. There's actually a team out there that has not covered this year, the Missouri Tigers, and they're on an 0-11 streak dating back to last year. Usually tells you the fortunes of your team. When you have a bad spread record, you're having a rough year. And Miami was having a really bad spread record until the last couple of weeks. So,
can you imagine being a Missouri fan? Oh my goodness, because they bet on their team.
Right. Well, or against them if they're smart. I mean, their run defense is probably the worst I've seen of a Power 5 conference team in maybe 20, 25 years. You got to watch them, Gary. They just get blown off the ball. Literally, if a decent team like Georgia, if they wanted to, they're playing Georgia this week. If Georgia wanted to run for 500 yards, they could run for 500 yards if they kept their starters in.
Huh.
So
interesting. Well, I mentioned the Hard Rock, and for those of you in South Florida, just so you know, the Hard Rock has launched their sports betting app, so you can bet away, and it just makes Lee's service at ParamountSports.com all the more applicable to you, because now you got games every single day that you have easy access to, and one thing to keep an eye on that I'm seeing just from the first day or so of looking at it is keep an eye on those betting lines before you make your pick and compare them with some of the other ones. And they're not all the same all the time. And Lee, before we get into the Canes game, just for the layman sports bettor out there, because I think there's going to be a lot of them that are going to start getting into this as the Hard Rock blows the sports betting thing out. It's really important to pay attention to the lines, right?
It is, and I've got like 4 or 5 different outs, but you want to have 2, because a lot of times lines are off by a half a point to a point, and you want to play the best line. I mean, you might be winning way up. So there's some sports books I'm way up on, and there's actually one I'm actually down on right now because I've been playing some better lines there, and just so happens I've lost games there. But in the long run, if you get a half a point or a point on every game, if you're playing 3-4 games a night, you're going to have 4 or 5 bets a month easily that you will push on and win, as opposed to probably losing. So that's the difference. You just need to hit 52.4% of your bets to make money. And that's the difference between winning and losing.
All right, so let's talk about the Canes, Georgia Tech. Miami -10 in this one. Like last week, we talked about how the Miami +9.5 line up at Pittsburgh was too big, and you were right. And it was way too big. Miami actually ended up winning the football game. This week, you got Miami -10 against Georgia Tech. What's your read on that one?
So Georgia Tech goes, I mean, you can talk about all their other players, their schemes. They go as Jeff Sims goes. When he's hot, he's very good. When he's bad, he's awful. He has trouble reading coverages a lot, and that's a problem. He has trouble also trying to make sometimes bigger plays out of nothing. And he could be, just going to the ground, and sometimes you just got to take the sack and live to fight another day. And he'll just throw it up to try to make something out of nothing, and it's intercepted. I've seen the guy be intercepted, I think 4 or 5 times in a game, a couple times. So he is
Tries to
up
be
and down.
Superman.
Yeah, I mean, he's very talented. He's very athletic, but just because you're athletic doesn't mean you're a great quarterback. I probably will not give this game to my clients. The thing that scares you if you take Georgia Tech, and it's the way I'm leaning, is right now Tyler Van Dyke, the green light's coming on, and playing quarterback, a former college quarterback. I study quarterbacks, and I didn't think it was going to happen this quick, but it's coming on, and he really seems like he, is starting to figure out defenses. The line's giving him a little bit more time to block, and also his receivers are holding on to the ball now finally. So I don't normally like to go against hot quarterbacks, and he's hot right now, but 10.5 points in a conference game, I just think it's probably a little bit too much. I shade Georgia Tech. I can see Miami winning this game, something like 31-24, 31-27. Should be a fun game. Last 2 games have been fun, entertaining games, even more fun because we've won. But I don't know if we're just going to pull away, and I don't know if we're good enough to beat a young team right now like we are, by double digits. So I'll take the 10.5 points in Georgia Tech.
Especially coming off two emotional wins.
Right.
How much does that factor in? I mean, that's what I see. I see this could be kind of like a sandwich game, 2 emotional wins, trip to Florida State next week. And even though Florida State's not winning, they have been playing better as of late. They, we'll talk about their experience last week in a second.
Yeah.
But they have been playing better. And game's going to be at Doak Campbell Stadium, and that could be a tough game for Miami.
They might have 50,000 fans there for a change.
How about that?
A couple other things. I mean, there's some positives. The offensive line is blocking better. I would like to see them get Franklin, running back, involved more, even though Roosters looks good. I'd like to see them start working him in more, especially short yardage situations.
He's been struggling a little in practice, Lee. That's why they're not playing him very much. The
but you know what?
The Cody Brown kid's been doing better.
Okay, but there are, and I'm fine with that. But maybe in the future, there's some kids just are not practice players. True. So the most alarming position, I think I might have said this last week, right now is linebacker. You can watch. There's a couple plays, I think, in the second quarter, where last week Pickett is scrambling, and he doesn't even have to make a move on Flag, Jennings, or Steed, and he just goes right by them.
Right.
I mean, we've got some slow linebackers. I mean, that's something that we haven't seen. Usually our linebackers, are 4.7 guys on average. A couple are 4.6, 4.5 guys. These guys look like they're 4.9s, 5 flat guys. Yeah. So that's something that we've got to – I think that's our biggest need. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes into the portal and gets some linebackers or some true freshmen end up starting like our defensive backs are. So those are just some of the things I saw in the game here. So overall positive, but like I said, you picked up. We're in a sandwich situation off 2 big wins against ranked opponents. We're a young team. Usually winning feeds on itself. I played on very few losing teams, so I don't know what exactly happens. I only played on one team that was like 500 growing up, and that one year that we were fighting 500, there was fighting going on in practice. But when you win, it's like a snowball effect, and you tend to win close games. So I think we'll win this something like 31-20, 24, 31-27.
All right. I wanted to talk to you about a couple things just to give people a little bit more insight into sports betting. And I thought that we had a couple examples from last week's games that are a good opportunity to do so. We talked about FSU Clemson last week, and we talked about the fact that FSU was playing better. And I believe the line was FSU +9, and that you had told us take Florida State, and
Right.
I agreed with that. And I went to the sports book up in Pittsburgh. They have a sports book right next to the stadium. How convenient
Rivers?
is that?
Was it Rivers Casino?
Yeah, Rivers. Yeah, right there, right next to Heinz Field. I mean, it's like, it doesn't get any better than that. So I went over there and I made my parlay. I played I played a Miami FSU parlay and took your advice. And I'm sitting there like watching the end of the Clemson FSU game, and FSU had won the bet. Like they played a great game. They were coming up just short, but they were at the last play with like 2-3 seconds left. And they tried one of those crazy flea flicker plays where they just throw the ball all over the place and try to do what Miami did at Duke a few years ago. And the quarterback throws it wild, and a Clemson defensive lineman scoops it up, scores a touchdown, and Clemson wins by 10. So everybody that bet Florida State lost by 1 point after Florida State had played a really good game for 3.5 hours. Okay, this is the dilemma of Lee Sterling. Okay, like this is your life every single day, and I think you had a similar situation in the Maryland Indiana game where a last minute touchdown changed the outcome of the bet. Talk about like that challenge from your perspective.
Well, my biggest problem as a handicapper and bettor is I think that I can figure out strengths and weaknesses from teams and tell, whether a team should be favored and by how much. And you cannot predict the game. Games are so up and down, and whatever you think is going to happen, even if your team is going to win, a lot of times, almost all the time, doesn't happen the way you think it's going to happen. But my biggest problem is, let's say I felt like Florida State was going to be in this game, and either the coordinators or something strange will happen. They call a poor game, or they see something else, and that causes you to lose a bet. Or what happened, that strange ending, just a freak, ending. You just shake your head. You're on the right side. If anyone was out there celebrating, now, if you won Clemson and you're jumping up and down, great for you.
Right.
But if you're running around saying you know what you're doing and you pick Clemson, you're on the wrong side, because Florida State was covering for 59 minutes and 59 seconds. Another game I had big for my clients was Maryland. I knew the public didn't know. They were wondering whether one of the two starting quarterbacks, the starter or the backup, was going to play for Indiana. I'd gotten some word that neither of them were going to play. And the third string kid played. He had never played more than maybe a minute or two in a game, and felt that Maryland could jump on him and win the game. And that game played out the way I thought. They were up 14-0. Now, something changed in that game. When they're up 14-0, I think there was a block punt for a touchdown that Indiana got. So it kept them relatively in the game. But Maryland was up by 15 points with 8-9 minutes to go in the game.
Wow.
And I think Indiana scored. We kicked a field goal when we probably should have scored a touchdown. With a minute to go, 2 passes down the field, touchdown, you lose. And it's called a right side loser. So lost that one. And then there was FAU was involved in a total. They were playing UTEP. Another game I had, it was 48.5 was the total. And I believe it was like 25-10, something like that. 25-10, or no, sorry, 28 10 or 12 or 13, something like that, with 4 or 5 minutes to go in the game. So I have, as long as there's 10 points or less scored, I got the win. What happens? UTEP scores a touchdown, onside kick, which works about maybe 8 to 12% of the time. Recover the onside kick, couple plays down the field, like on a 4th and 14 or 16, they throw a touchdown pass, you lose. So I would, in the long run, as a handicapper, I'd like to know that I'm on the side that loses. As a bettor, I'd like to win those games. But I've won my share of those. But it seems that you remember the ones you lose a lot more than the ones you win.
All right, so far we've got Miami potentially winning, but not covering the 10.5 spread. What other games are you seeing this week that are sticking out to you?
So NC State's playing Florida State, and I think maybe Florida State's getting a little bit too much credit here. I still think that Leary is a solid quarterback, and I think they recovered, by talking a lot of smack against Miami. And I think they were a little overconfident for the Miami game. I think they learned a lesson, and I like the way they played in the fourth quarter against Louisville, had a couple key stops against Louisville, and methodically drove the ball down and put the game away. So, that's a line, I think, seeing like 2.5 now. North Carolina's favored by. I think they can cover the 3 at Florida State. Florida State might be down a little bit from that loss. And then we've got Mario Cristobal's team, Oregon, the Oregon Ducks, who were surprisingly ranked 4th in the college football rankings that came out. Were you a little shocked that they were ranked seeded 4th?
Not at all. I mean, why? Like I saw some rankings had Ohio State ahead of them. They beat Ohio State handily. They deserve to be ahead of Ohio State.
Okay, I agree with that. But I thought that Cincinnati deserved to be number 2 or 3. Just my opinion, or 3 at least.
They don't play anybody, Lee.
Okay, they went to Notre Dame and dominated Notre Dame. So,
but you yourself said that you thought Notre Dame was an overrated team.
Oh, I thought they were overrated, but they went. That's not an easy place.
But I agree with you. That's not.
They won by double digits. Here's
but that's
the thing.
Not Oregon going to Ohio State and winning at Ohio State.
No, that's impressive, but they lost to Stanford.
I know that was
Stanford is not.
Did you see how they lost that game, Lee? Talk about.
Yeah.
It was like the Miami Ohio State national championship game all over again. Stupid flag by a referee on the last play of the game.
Right. Okay. There's also a couple other things. Cal, they only beat by a touchdown.
Yep.
And in the last game, they allowed, I think, Colorado, whose offense is on par with. No, it's a little above FIU. I don't want to put down FIU. FIU's terrible. It's bad. It's a little above FIU, but it's not good at all. Scored 29 points on them. So I thought that Cincinnati should have been 3 or 4. They're sitting at 6. They could end up winning out and not getting in. So, maybe they want to get a Pac-12.
So you think Oregon's a little overrated?
Yeah, I think so.
And what's the line on their game? They play, I think, Washington this week?
Yeah, they're favored by 7 points in that game. Washington, I've watched them the last couple weeks, playing a little bit better here. The Oregon offense doesn't – there's been some teams back in the day. Marcus Mariota, they've had Justin Herbert.
Yeah, their quarterback is too up and down.
Yeah, he's up and down. They don't have a running back that really scares you. They don't have a receiver that's amazing. Their line isn't as good as the last couple of years. So they don't put the fear in you. And like I mentioned, their defense isn't great. Washington's a tough place to play. Washington has lost 14 of the last 16. This is a big rivalry game here. So I think the Huskies will take this game down to the wire. It wouldn't shock me if they win the game. In fact, I've got them winning this game 27-26 over the Ducks.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. Any other games stand out?
Those are the ones that stuck out to me and have interest, for the Miami fans. And I said it's great that legalized gambling, sports gambling is here.
It's here in South Florida, no doubt.
Yeah.
A lot of people have waited a long time for that, and I know that a lot of people are excited. So that's good for Paramount Sports. So hopefully the winners keep coming and people keep calling, and it's all good for everybody. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week. For Lee Sterling, I'm Gary Furman. Thank you for joining us on You Bet CaneSport, and bet carefully, everybody. We'll see you next week.